Welcome to the Esya Center's new podcast, Perspectives. We are a New Delhi based think tank, and this podcast is a platform for our researchers to discuss technology policy issues in an accessible format. In today's episode, we discuss WazirX's response to a massive hack that it suffered on June 18th and its potential impact on India's cryptocurrency investment market.
Hey guys, recently I was checking up on my crypto investments, however little they may be, and I saw that one of India's biggest cryptocurrency exchanges, WazirX, was hacked. $235 million in crypto holdings were stolen, which was about 45% of the entire user funds on the platform. Interestingly, only ERC20 tokens were stolen, which were Ethereum tokens. So if you held only ERC20 tokens in your wallet, 100% of your user holdings were gone. And if you held tokens in other cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin or Solana, you did not lose anything. Now, this hack was traced to a North Korean hacking group called the Lazarus Group. But the magnitude of this hack really shocked me, and it made me curious about what the response has been after this hack and what it means for retail investors like me.
Yeah, I think there are two lenses to sort of look at this hack. The first is, of course, the hack and the security breach itself. Now, without condoning WazirX or its security practices, I think there is a general understanding that technology companies can be susceptible or vulnerable to such hacks and to cybercrime. Some of the world's largest technology organizations have previously suffered major losses due to hacks like this. And the Lazarus Group, as you mentioned, Gaurav, is a particularly sophisticated and notorious hacker, which has been responsible for multiple crypto hacks over the last 3 years. So I think there is an understanding that while it shouldn't have happened, the fact that it has happened isn't completely out of the ordinary. On the other hand, what has really been concerning for me as a user is the response from WazirX and a few other stakeholders after the hack has occurred. And I think how you approach that as a company, who you place first, whether it's users or your own self interest, really determines the level of trust that people have in the ecosystem. And at least for me, there have been quite a few things which have been concerning and may affect my willingness to participate in the broader crypto ecosystem moving forward.
As a user, my primary concern is why did I have to lose my money? So immediately after I learned of the hack, I went online to look up what happened, what is going on, and there was no clarity about it. I found out that there was some sort of security arrangement between two organizations, WazirX and Liminal Custody. And they essentially had this narrative online that this is the most secure wallet that could ever exist, and everything is safe. All the forums where the users were interacting were saying this. But in the end, when this went down, we see them just blaming each other. They're saying that, oh, WazirX is the one that is responsible. They failed to meet their security standards. WazirX is saying, no, we are completely secure. Custody should have taken care of this. So, I mean, they're both huge platforms. I mean, you'd expect some sort of accountability, some sort of shared liability from them. But then none of that has happened. On top of all of this, the WazirX used to have this whole, these posts about how they are maintaining reserves and funds for any such incident, and there used to be a tracker of all the funds, and we used to have some sort of transparency, and they used to make a huge thing up about it that they're so accountable to the users. But as soon as this happened, that has disappeared. It's no longer available on the internet. Sure, I mean, you can get access to it on Internet Archives and all of that, but right now, what the status is, we do not know. And for all we care about, they do not care enough to take accountability, and they have willingly, voluntarily removed it from the internet. So, what is happening right now as a user? I feel
Yeah, it's their response from the get-go has reflected this opinion that they are not liable, they are not responsible. One of their first statements that came out said that this is a force majeure event. Now, this is a fancy term used in legal contracts, and it's mentioned in even the terms and conditions on WazirX that if a certain uncontrollable event happens, something that is out of WazirX's control, like a fire or a war, and specifically a security breach or cyber attack, then if you have any losses from it, if your contract as an investor is breached, your crypto investments are not accessible to you, in that situation, WazirX will not be liable because they have mentioned cyber attacks as a exceptional event which is out of their control. And that is very strange that they flag it as an out of control event, because maintaining security protocols is something that is important to such a platform. Like Chhavi mentioned, they're known for their safety and how trustworthy they are. They advertise themselves as a security first platform. So, in that situation, if it's not just that it's mentioned in their contracts, their terms and conditions, but that's what they decided to lead with when they gave a statement regarding the hack, it is very concerning, and it really shakes my trust in the Indian crypto investment environment. And as a potential investor, now I'm on the back foot. I'm not very sure if I want to get involved in this market at all, if this is what one of the leading platforms behaves like.
That's a really good point, Akanksha. And apart from the security concerns, WazirX's proposed socializing losses recovery plan essentially meant that all users would have to bear the hack. So, for example, if I were a WazirX user and I held only Bitcoin in my wallet, 45% of my assets would still get frozen, irrespective of the fact that I don't hold any ERC20 tokens, as Gaurav had explained. So essentially, what they've done is that even though a certain section of the user base hasn't lost money, they're still being asked to pitch in. And a particularly weird thing about this whole approach is that the company itself has made no mention of how they are going to contribute to the loss, right? So essentially, they're putting the user at the front of the solution and they're protecting themselves. Um, and as you said, ultimately, what's going to happen is that it's going to negatively impact the entire Indian crypto ecosystem, especially given that Indian users are also required to pay a 1% TDS. And we've done a lot of research on this in the past, and we can link some of our reports below, where we've shown that because of the 1% TDS, a lot of users have already been offshoring. And given the WazirX hack and how things don't seem to have any solution at this point, it's very obvious that more and more users are going to go to foreign exchanges, right? Um, so ultimately, it makes you think, the government is making users pay 1% TDS. In spite of paying such a hefty fee, Indian users still don't have the level of protection that maybe users in other countries have, like the US.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point, Tamanna. And as a investor in crypto and also someone who's been studying the policy landscape, the lack of any sort of response from the regulatory authorities has been particularly disheartening. Now, of course, we do understand that the government is generally skeptical of cryptocurrencies, and it's something that they've tried to disincentivize in different ways, including the ban in 2018 and subsequently imposing a hefty TDS and things like that. But I think at some point, the reality that Indian users have invested a lot of their savings into this space, and also a lot of young developers and innovators are actually creating a lot of useful products in this space, needs to be reflected in the policy responses that come from government organizations. Now, we're not suggesting that the financial intelligence unit or other industries get involved and say we're going to bring back the money from the Lazarus group. We understand that's probably going to be near impossible given how that particular group operates. But can you do something which gives me as a user assurance that whatever outcome will be reached will be equitable, it will be fair, it will be transparent, that there is someone who is at least watching over these private players, and that my funds are not with an entity which can do as it pleases, and when something goes wrong, shirk complete liability for it and say that, actually, we're going to make this better by asking other users take a haircut and sort of give up on their savings. So I think some sort of reassurance from the government would have really helped a lot of the consumers who've been impacted by this situation. And maybe moving forward, the policy skepticism which has existed needs to be balanced against the reality of the number of Indian consumers who are invested in this space and will probably continue to do so moving forward, perhaps in foreign exchanges if things in India don't improve.